The movie Fight Club is about a lot of things. We see obvious things like the mayhem and destruction, but also the criticism, critiques, and analysis of what it is to be a man in our society as we try to fit into the gender roles forced onto us by a failing corporate capitalist system that we were never designed to live in the first place. Fighting just to feel anything because the world has made us all so numb. It also looks at the destruction caused by conformity, how we are all so unhappy that most people would easily fall into a cult-like mentality. It analyzes gender roles and orientation, as well as discussing what it's like to be a man on the DL. But after we're finished watching the movie and we see all of this chaos and destruction, we start to wonder what caused all of this. Well, mostly that failing and corrupt corporate capitalist system I mentioned. But a big part of this story is actually about medical neglect. All of this could have been avoided had the narrator got the proper medical treatment. Now, I'm not saying that all problems of society are simply medical ones. In the film, we see that the narrator tries to go to the doctor before anything happens, before he starts hallucinating, before he meets Tyler, before Fight Club, and before Project Mayhem. While at the doctor, he tells him that he's been having trouble sleeping and that he has insomnia. His doctor tells him to chew on some valerian root and that insomnia is not fatal. Which right off the bat, let's look at that. And while people don't pass away directly from insomnia, the wear and tear that it does on your body, you absolutely can pass away from. You can get heart disease and kidney problems. And this heart disease could lead to things like heart attacks, which is one of the leading killers for men. But the reason for a lot of people that insomnia is fatal is because they make mistakes. Errors in driving, at their jobs, doing simple things like crossing the street or cutting up vegetables could be fatal to these people. So it's alarming that his doctor doesn't take this more seriously, considering that the narrator flies all around the country and has to drive out to scenes of car accidents to investigate them. So this is someone who's not sleeping and is constantly on the road driving. And that's not the only reason the doctor should have checked on him. And he also tells the doctor that he's been losing time, that he's waking up in strange places with no memory of what he's done. Now this could be attributed to something like simply zoning out, or maybe he's miscommunicating the situation. But there's a lot of fatal conditions that you can have, and part of the symptom of those is losing chunks of time. For instance, if he had a brain tumor, he could be having a stroke, he could be developing MS, he could be having side effects to medication, but this is all just brushed off by the doctor. And why is that? Sometimes medical professionals become numb to people's pain. Partially this is because they have to. They see traumatic things all the time, and if they don't disconnect on some level, they'd be going through trauma constantly. But it's also because medical professionals see a full range of people when they're working in things like emergency rooms. So they might have just had a patient that just passed away, and then they walk into the room and they have someone like the narrator telling them that they're having trouble sleeping, and they have trouble empathizing in that moment. And these doctors unfortunately forget that pain is relative, that the patient sitting in front of you with insomnia, well, they don't know what it's like to be slowly dying of cancer. When he tells him that he's in pain, the doctor tells him, if you want to see real pain, go to the support group with men with testicular cancer, that's pain. But this is untrue. The narrator's pain is just as much pain as the men with testicular cancer. And when people go to the hospital and they get treated like this, well, they lose a lot of faith in the medical industry. Because the narrator wasn't just coming there so he can have a perfect night's sleep, he's scared because something is wrong and he knows that. But the other reason that we see this failing in the film and in real life is because our medical industry is slowly crumbling and has been for a long time. They work, doctors and nurses, very long shifts where they're tired and burned out, and they have to see this wide range of patients. And we see that represented in the movie. The doctor looks extremely tired. He's probably been working a very long shift. A lot of doctors and nurses will work between 10 and 16-hour shifts at a time. It's hard to be effective when you've been going for over 8 hours. And this isn't only dangerous for them, it's dangerous for all of the patients that they come into contact with. And unfortunately, because of the way hospitals are run, this doctor really probably doesn't have the time to spend with the narrator to even figure out what's going on. Because hospitals have become corporatized and commercialized. Doctors are given less and less time with their patients, and instead of it being a place of healing, they're a mill where everything is calculated and commodified. And then we see that the main character doesn't get help. He starts to have his hallucinations and falls deeper and deeper into this world of madness. The narrator going to the hospital was a cry for help, and his last cry for help, because after that he was too deep in it, and he could no longer differentiate reality from his delusions. And this is a great example how a lot of crime and danger and the general problems that we have as a society are caused by the fact that our society has failed people in so many ways, and why our system should be centered around helping people in crisis. because it's not only the best thing for them, it helps all of us in the long run. Because as these corporations take over our country and the rest of the world, they take these things that used to serve people and make it so it only serves them. It unbalances the scales and it makes people want to tear down the entire system. And this movie is a beautiful representation of the butterfly effect and how a greedy corporate executive can make a rule that will shorten a doctor's time with patients, which causes them to not be fully served, which in turn causes chaos, the destruction of an entire city block, and the collapse of the credit system. It goes beyond a simple fix of just giving doctors more time with their patients or doctors being more sympathetic towards their patients. It comes down to when we let corporations run the world, everybody loses. And what's intriguing is that the entire movie is commentary on just this. Capitalism has failed us. And while no system is perfect, capitalism thrives off the perpetual slavery and indentured servitude that almost all of the population are forced into. This movie shows us the extreme of trying to fix it all by bringing down the entire system. But all we really have to do is end the cycle of abuse of capitalism that we live under. We just stop participating in it. So why do we as people and the workers try so hard to uphold this system when it doesn't even benefit us? It really only serves the top 1 to 10% of the population. Our entire system is a pyramid scheme. Now, I don't think it's productive nor necessary to bring down the entire society and its buildings, allowing everything to descend into chaos just to fix this. To a lot of people, they don't see any other recourse. But when we live in a society that's so money-centric, that corporations will change their policies, their entire corporate trajectory, based off of strikes and boycotts. Just the idea that they will have a bad quarter will make them shift their entire process. We as people hold a lot of power, and we actually have far more control than we ever thought that we did. And while Tyler's overall plan was that of an unstable man, there are a few pieces of wisdom that can be gained from what he said. You're not your job, you're not how much money you have in the bank, you're not the car you drive, you're not the contents of your wallet. Reject the basic assumptions of civilization, especially the importance of material possessions. The things you own end up owning you. I see all this potential. I see all this potential, and I see squandering. God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate to buy shit we don't need. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd become millionaires, and movie gods, and rock stars. But we won't, and we're slowly starting to learn that fact, and we are very, very pissed off. You're not your job, you're not how much money you have in the bank, you're not the car you drive, you're not the contents of your wallet. And on all those things, Tyler was right. The material possessions that we hold us down. And that doesn't mean you have to go live in the woods, but don't be owned by capitalism. The system only keeps us enslaved if we keep participating in it. The scariest thing to corporations is that you won't go spend your money with them. They're scared that you'll start eating better so that you won't have to go to the hospital as much, so you won't have to take all of the medications. They want you to watch TV and look at celebrities and wish that you could be like them. So you go work a job that you resent, doing things that make the world worse most of the time, only so that you can come back and spend that money on plastic garbage that's just gonna pollute a landfill and poison you with microplastics. Corporations have taken over the landscape, and in this movie we see the consequences of it in every way. And that our society is supposed to have these safety nets to protect people when they fall. Hospitals are supposed to be there so that they can help heal people before their ailment spins out of control and affects the entire population. But corporations and the rich, they don't care about that. They only care about what's in their bank account and their portfolio at the end of the month. And everything that you see in Fight Club is just a microcosm of that. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. It really helps out the channel. If you want more and exclusive content, I have a members only profile and a Patreon, but Twitch, and I also have a TikTok account, so make sure you check those out as well. All of that is linked down in my bio. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next and what you thought of this video, and I want to thank you all so much for being here. I'll see you in the next one.